And we are live from the great state of Wisconsin. This is the Overdue Sports Team. We are back with week 8 of the college football look ahead. I am your host, Will. To my right, as always, Jake. We're ready to break down some more college football.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of tough sledding the last couple weeks for me anyways. Have not been
Me too.
betting the best football, especially during the week. Like, at least on Saturdays, I've been okay. And I typically have good reads on the Friday games just because they're a little better. But the midweek stuff has been killing me. And yeah, I mean, we move along though. We always move along. Keep trying.
I've been in a pretty similar boat. I was pretty solid at the beginning of the year, and it's just been really rough sledding the last couple of weeks. I've been getting just hosed on some honestly not very good bets. So I'm looking to change the tides tomorrow. I don't have any official bets tonight, but we can jump right into tonight's game that's on our slate. Florida State 1-5 taking on the Duke Blue Devils at 5-1. Duke is laying 3 points. Florida State coming off of a lot of consecutive losses. 2 consecutive losses. Their last win was Cal at home, 14-9. They got punked by SMU and they got handled by Clemson last week. Duke feels really easy in this, but I think it's still Duke. I don't think either of these teams are that good, though. I really don't. I don't think Duke
No,
is
they're
very
not.
good.
No, you're right. And I would agree with your pick too, and I played Duke. Like I don't really like it. It feels really wrong to me because it does seem really easy.
Yeah.
But I guess the only saving grace I have for like my sanity when it comes to this play is that like Florida State did cover against Clemson. I did bet Florida State against Clemson. So
And Duke
Duke's
lost last week. They're coming off
yeah,
a loss to Georgia Tech.
Duke's definitely better. Like there's no qualms about that. Like Florida State's really bad. But it does you made a good point. It does feel really easy and like the line moved toward Florida State too. I don't really like it. But like me saying 3 is short isn't I'm not entirely sure that's true. You know what I mean? Like both of these teams aren't very good.
No.
And to me it's the numbers kind of right. I guess we're going to just see what happens. So I'm going to try to take a stab at, maybe it is that easy because like Florida State. I mean, how many times have you backed them or like wanted to back them and didn't actually do it, and then they just suck? You know what I mean? Like, why trust them?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I've been debating locking Duke -3. I've been looking at it all day and I haven't pulled the trigger. So maybe I'll jump on that. I mean, you'll just to me, bettors will look at it and they'll say it's a 5-1 team laying 3 points against a 1-5 team. Why wouldn't I take that? But I think it's right.
Duke's 5-1.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. They're-
Really?
Yeah. Duke is 5-1. They lost last week to Georgia Tech. That's it. But they had a pretty weak non-con schedule. I know they played, correct me if I'm wrong, but they played Northwestern early at Northwestern in a really
Mm-hmm.
gross one.
Yeah, they did.
And I can't remember their other non-con game. But yeah, they're 5-1.
Yeah, I'm still gonna. I'm still
Not
gonna.
very good 5-1 though. I would not
No,
take that.
They're not that good, but I'm still gonna be confident in it enough, I guess. But I don't know. It doesn't feel right, but it might be right. So that's kind of my take on it.
Pushing over to Saturday, our first Saturday game. The Miami Hurricane are laying 5 points at Louisville. Louisville is coming off a 4-point win against Virginia. Miami is coming off of a 1-point win at Cal last week. I like Louisville with the points here. I know Miami didn't cover last week, and I don't believe they covered against Virginia Tech either. So they're coming off of 2 straight weeks of not covering. And I know you mentioned you hit Louisville last week, or you bet Louisville last week. They did
Yeah,
not cover against Virginia.
it was just like they never put them away. They were winning like half the time. They went down for a little bit and got the lead right back. Like I think they had a couple red zone turnovers or like a missed field goals. The normal stuff. They were up by 10 at one point in the fourth quarter. I think they just never really buried them, put them away. But so I wouldn't say they played like poorly, but yeah, I did. unfortunately, because it was on me.
I know you backed them as well 2 weeks ago against SMU. They were 7-point favorites. They lost outright by 7. Or at least I think were
Yeah,
you on that game? I was
no,
on that game,
I
but
think that might have. I bet SMU or I faded SMU and I lost. I don't remember what team they were playing though. 'Cause SMU was they're really good, but
yeah. I'm taking
yeah.
Louisville in the points
I mean,
here.
regardless, yeah, I like Louisville too. It's not so much to me that Miami has failed to cover the last 2 games, it's like they shouldn't have even beat Cal. I mean, Cal, classic, another disaster of a fourth quarter. I mean, they were up, what, 20 points?
Yeah, they were up big
At
in that game,
least.
yeah.
Yeah, at least. And then, I mean, I bet Cal last week, they covered, but they lost because they missed a field goal. Even though I will say, Pitt keeps getting away with it. Like,
They
Pitt
do.
should be 0-6. Like, they're dog shit. I don't like they're ranked. It's like, get out of here. Like, miracle team, like all the way. Like they should literally be 0 or 2-5, 2-4, whatever you want to do. Like they win their non-conference games, but I think every conference game they played, they like should have lost. If you had a competent team playing against them, they would have lost. But that's neither here nor there. But I am grateful that they did just lose because if they made that field goal, they would have just given up a touchdown and then they wouldn't have covered either. So I would have lost 2 units instead of a wash. So spin zone there, keep it positive. But long story short, yes, I like Louisville. I just the way Miami won last week. I think Louisville's going to get up for this game too. But Miami's still good. I'm not going to be like, oh, they're not that good because I think they are probably going to win the ACC. Or well, if Clemson wasn't there, those are your one of the two there. But yeah, I do like Louisville here.
Moving to the Big Ten, Nebraska is visiting Indiana. They were off last week. They played Rutgers the week prior, beat them 14-7. And Indiana is coming off of a stomping against Northwestern, who is just god awful. Nebraska was really impressive early this year, and they've kind of just fallen back down to what I think that they were preseason. And Indiana, I know they're ranked 16th. They haven't played anybody yet. Their non-conference was a joke. They're ranked 16th. Nebraska does have Ohio State on deck, I believe.
Look
And
ahead spot. Yeah.
yeah, it's a look ahead spot. Indiana is laying 6.5 at home. I think this is the kind of game where is Indiana for real? And I don't know if I want to back the team that's in that spot. I think this is a really big game for Indiana. It's kind of their first quality opponent in the conference. And I don't know if I would back Indiana here. I would lean with Indiana, the 6.5, but I don't know. I don't feel good about that at all. But I wouldn't feel good about taking Nebraska either, the way that they've been playing the last handful of weeks with Ohio State on deck.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, mostly it's kind of two things. One, that look ahead spot for Nebraska, because I mean, Ohio State is, they're they lost against Oregon in some goofy fashion, but props to Dan Lanning, I guess, for that, 12th man penalty. But look ahead spot for sure, in my opinion. And then I do think Indiana's good. Like they're 16th, yes, they haven't played anybody, yes, but it's not like they played down to the teams that they've played.
They've been
You know what I
handling
mean? Like
business. Yeah.
and not just handling business. Like the 2, 3 non-conference teams that they played, they beat the piss out of them. Like you should, like there was no messing around with them. Um, Indiana's been pretty bad the last couple years, and I think like the energy and the culture is starting to, go the right direction for them as a program. It seems like to me, anyways. So I'm comfortable laying them here. Like if it was over 7, I'd probably pass, but like it's under that key number. I kind of like that. But that's not one I would feel like really good about either because Nebraska's good too. I think they've been playing like what you said, more like what you'd expect just because they started conference play. You know what I mean? A lot of those Big Ten teams are really, really similar outside of Oregon and Ohio State. In Iowa, I guess, because now they can score points. Weird. Um, but I think they're good. Like you made a good point. They didn't play much of anybody. Like they're kind of just starting to get like to quality opponents. But like I said, they've handled that business. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's very strange that they're a touchdown favorite at home.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's one that's definitely really interesting. Like, it might be one of the more
Hmm.
interesting games on
Yeah,
the slate this
it's going to
weekend.
be a good game. It's going to be a little. Like, I'm just curious to see like what kind of Big Ten are you going to get because there's been some shockingly high scoring games in some Big Ten play. Like, I didn't think Penn State and USC would be as good of a game as it was last week. Iowa scoring points. Wisconsin's kind of in a groove. Purdue lost, but scored 50 points against Illinois. I mean, this one could be a rock fight or a barn burner. Like, I feel like there's no in between. So,
Yeah. Next game, heading to the SEC. This is such an interesting context matchup for me, but it's South Carolina and Oklahoma. South Carolina is laying 1 in Norman. South Carolina is coming off that 2-point loss at Alabama, and Oklahoma is coming off of getting the brakes beat off of them by Texas at home, 34-3. So it's a bounce back spot for both teams. Like, you get South Carolina that's in that really emotional game. It comes right down to the wire and they don't come through with it. And you have Oklahoma who's just looking for a bounce back. I'm going to lean the Sooners here, +1. I would play it on the money line at even or whatever it is. I just think getting beat that bad to your rival, like, you have to show up the next week. You can't drop 2 in a row after that.
I just don't know if they can. They're really bad.
I, I,
They're really bad.
I don't
Like,
know if
I
South
don't.
Carolina's that good. I mean, they got
They're
stomped by
they're
Ole
not
Miss.
horrible. They got
Yeah,
stomped by Ole Miss. They played
they,
with
sh-
Alabama.
they
They
should have beat
beat
LSU.
Kentucky. Yeah, and then Kentucky's not a cakewalk team either. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I would tend to agree with you taking the 1 point there just because of how bad Oklahoma looked last week. But I don't know if I can. They're really bad. It
like,
seems like their defense is okay because, like, I mean, at the end of that first half, like they were down or like 2 touchdowns, but it didn't seem like the defense was playing all that badly. Like, I know they forced a missed field goal, like with 30 seconds left at the end of the first half. But I thought their defense did a pretty good job in the first half of like mitigating points allowed based on their crappy field position the entire first half. Their offense just couldn't do anything. And I think that's their biggest problem. It's like they gave up 34 points because they felt like their defense was out there for 45 minutes. No one's going to get stops when you're out there that much. Can the offense score? If the offense can score, yeah, Oklahoma's probably going to win this game outright, but they're so bad.
it is not the team that people thought they were
No,
preseason,
not at
like, at
all. And
all.
like, and the writing was on the wall too. Like that Tennessee game, like was pretty hyped up, and people were
Yeah,
excited for that one. And that one turned out to be a complete snoozer too.
yeah. Sticking in the SEC, Alabama at Tennessee. Bama's laying 3 points, coming off of the loss to Vanderbilt and a near loss at South Carolina last week, or against South Carolina last week. Tennessee is coming off of the loss at Arkansas, and then they beat Florida last week at home by 6. This feels like a Bama spot. Like, it feels like they got the loss out of the way, and I mean, the rest of their schedule is an absolute gauntlet. You got Tennessee this week, you've got
Mm-hmm.
Mizzou next week, and you got LSU after that.
Yeah,
But
the
it feels like
SEC
this
is
is
really good this year. Mm-hmm.
it just feels like this is where they turn it on. Like, you got a really bad loss out of the way. You barely escaped South Carolina. You kind of feel like they're just going to turn a page and run through the really good teams after struggling with a couple of the lesser teams in conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, squares it would be. I'd probably play Alabama here, and
Yeah.
this is gonna be it's like kind of the opposite of that Oklahoma analysis. Um, it's gonna be defense, I think, because Tennessee's offense hasn't looked very sharp the last couple of weeks. I think that Florida game at halftime, they said, like, Tennessee's been shut out in the first half 2 consecutive weeks, and that's a team that's been, like, leading the country in score like, maybe not first, but, like, top 5 in most offensive categories. I mean, when you're playing Tennessee A&T or whatever the fuck, like, yeah, sure, scoring 60 points isn't a problem, but that offense is struggling, and, like, Florida's not Florida that anyone, like, expected, right? Like, I mean, were you expecting Florida to be good? Probably not, but you would expect them to be relatively competitive, right? And it's like times they are, times they aren't, right? But like disappointment is what I'm getting at. Florida looked pretty good for 50 minutes. I think what's the guy's name? Billy Napier had a dumb decision at the end of the game there or whatnot. But I don't know. Tennessee's like, see, that's kind of the thing I'm struggling with. Tennessee, this number looks like a Tennessee spot just because it's like, oh, minus +3 at home. Crowd's gonna get fired up. Rocky Top, great place to play college football. But it's like, I feel like if they were favored, that would be indicative. I think
Yeah.
Alabama being a road favorite might be a little telling. I could be wrong though, but I agree with you. I'm getting a little long-winded there, but I'm just trying to like get all my thoughts out. And doing that helps me bet a little better too. But yeah, like this seems like an Alabama spot for me. Just Alabama almost lost to South Carolina. Tennessee's actually good. I'm getting 3 points. That looks easy. So I like Alabama here too. And I think this one's going to be a little yucky. That's just me though.
Yeah. Could definitely see it. Back to the Big Ten. Michigan Wolverines are laying 4 points at Illinois. Illinois is coming off of a 1-point overtime win against Purdue, 50-49, and a 21-7 loss against Penn State, which was actually a really close game. Penn State punched a garbage
It was
time
a good
touchdown in,
game.
but that game was
That was a
7-7.
good game.
It was
Yeah.
a fantastic game. Michigan is coming off of a loss at Washington and a win against Minnesota by 3 points. And Illinois has Oregon on deck. And before seeing that, I would have 100% taken Illinois in this spot. I don't think Michigan is all that good. I think Illinois is a better team, but Illinois has Oregon on deck. I think I'm going to lay the points with Michigan here.
I'm going to disagree with that one. I like Illinois here. I think it's more of kind of just the spots, right? Like, it's not so much the team. It's like, what does the betting market think of this, right? It's like, they struggled with Purdue. That's really hard to overlook. You know what I
That
mean?
is
Like,
true. I do agree
it's
with that.
very hard to overlook. You guys were 21-point favorites and almost lost to Purdue. That's really hard to ignore. But on the flip side of it, like I also see what you're saying, right? Because I mean, is it a look ahead spot? Probably, but like I don't know.
This is probably the
Yeah,
hardest one
it's
for me
it's
to
a tough
decide.
one to decide because it's
This
like
was an initial, when I looked at this, I was Illinois. Like I looked at this game and I was like, it's Illinois 100%. Look at the schedule.
mhm.
You knew they almost lost to Purdue last week. I know Michigan's coming off a loss too, and then you see Oregon on deck and it's like,
Yeah. Like I get what you're saying. I just think like the Trump like the Purdue almost losing to them trumps any like logical look ahead spot for me anyways. And like I'd have to this is like a perfect fade the public spot. Get a gauge on what they're thinking. Michigan might look like the easiest bet on the board based on what happened last week. But to your point, I also think Illinois is better than Michigan. I'm not going to go and say Michigan stinks because I don't think they do. Like, who did they lose to? Washington. They don't suck.
yeah,
They're kind of just like frisky. They're not like Washington last year. They kind of fit right into the Big Ten. Before they kind of went on that run last year, they played very similar. You know what I mean? And what was I gonna say? I just lost it. Oh, that Texas lost Michigan. Texas is like the best team in the country. Like,
They're so
you know what I
fucking
mean? Like,
good.
I think that says a lot more about Texas than it does about Michigan. Did you get
I would
kind of
agree with
pumped
that.
in the big house? Yeah, but like I think I'm not saying I'm 100% right. And I mean Georgia's still out there, Alabama's still out there, Ohio State and Oregon are out there, but I think Texas is the best team in the country right now. I think this is more about Texas than it does about Michigan. So I don't know. This is a tough one for me too. Like it does look like this is an Illinois one. I'd probably lean that way. I'm probably going to play it unless something changes in the next 24 hours. But it's not one I'd feel great about either. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you play a
Yeah.
spot like that and you're like, oh, I got a hunch about this. Like you hit the money line too. Got to be careful with that this week because I hit Buffalo plus 310 last week and then I went crazy and I just gave it all back. Careful. But yeah, like this isn't one like I have that good conviction about, but it is definitely like that's the way I'm leaning.
Yeah. Final game on the slate. Speaking of Texas, the Georgia Bulldogs are headed to Austin where they'll take on the Texas Longhorns. The Longhorns are laying 5 points, and they have just steamrolled everybody in their path so far. This line has moved. I believe it was at 3.5 2 days ago on Wednesday. It's at 5 right now. I still think it's Texas. We talked about it pre-show. I have a weird feeling that Texas is just gonna punk Georgia.
I don't know. Like, do I think they're gonna win? Yes. I think that the move from 3 to 5 might be enough in this case to like fade the move. I like to see a field goal or more a lot of times before I just do it like a numbers fade. You know what I mean? Like, perfect example. Last night in the NFL game, thank God Cedric Wilson Jr. scored a touchdown at the end of the game because I was on the Saints. I was on the Saints spread. That was dog shit. Bad bet. But I was on the over. It moved down a touchdown. 6 points. It opened at 43.5, closed at 37. Like, that's an obvious, like, it moved. I think it moved enough to warrant betting against the move. I like to get at least a field goal, but I feel like this one might be tight enough to where the 3 to the 5 might be enough. I could be totally wrong too, but like this game to me seems like Georgia gets back on track and Texas kicks a field goal at the end of the game. I think Georgia's done getting completely punked
Yeah.
because like yesterday lost by what 4 points to Alabama it ended up being, but they got punked.
They got
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they got
That
flat
was
out punked. I don't think we're gonna see that anymore. You know what I mean? They could play Alabama again, and that won't happen again.
no
Like,
chance.
you know what I mean? It's just like Kirby is one of the best coaches out there, and that's nothing against Sark either. Sarkisian's a great coach too, but beat down, I don't see it. I don't care if they play in Austin. I don't care if they play on the moon. Like, I don't see a beat down. I see a really good football game, whether it's 3 to
I'm hoping
0,
so. I hope it is.
whether it's 3 to 0 or 100 to 95. Like, it's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be on my TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, that's our show. That's the college football look ahead for week 8. We will recap the picks in a tweet at some point. We'll put them in the YouTube comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll be back next week for week 9 as always. And look out for the NFL look ahead. We're going to be recording that directly after this again, as we always do. So we'll be putting out all of those also today or tomorrow. So stay tuned.
Yep.
Be sure to like and subscribe. We're out of here.